Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Matasya Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhusya Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So where are we in our text?
Number 185.
Pratyakshadini badhera Krishna Vladishu Bhagavat Akshajadini Merete Katham Syadvya Vakya Badhanam. Objection. The knowledge I am Brahman is contradicted by sense perception, etc., like the cooking of gold particles. Reply. How can that knowledge be contradicted by these, which are evidences only apparently?
So I think by gold flecks, he may be talking about fool's gold. But the point is, my sense apparatus says, I am Jim, I am the body, I am limited. Aditi is over there, she is a body, she is limited. How can the Mahavakya, I am Brahman, be true? And again, over and over again, we have to take the implied meaning of these, which means I have to negate the knowable. Withdraw my attention from the knowable, meaning objective, cognizable phenomena. The quiet mind in the space between thoughts. Not the body, not the prana, not the mind, not the intellect, not even ahankara, the thought of self, not pure ignorance. And Chidakash, the space of pure awareness. Just like the gold flakes, the fool's gold seems like something real and of value. It's not. It pretends to be gold. Likewise, it's only an appearance. is that the body is me. It's not true, it's not real. Next verse.
Dukhyasmiti sati jnane nirdukkhiti na jayate pratyakshadini bhatvepi vakyana vyabhicharataha. Objection. The knowledge that one is devoid of unhappiness does not arise from the sentence, as long as one feels that one is unhappy, though the feeling of unhappiness may be due to sense perception, etc., which are all fallacious. Reply. We say no, for there are exceptions.
So the objector here, the student, is going back to something that you and I may frequently experience, all right? In satsang, in study of the scripture, in my meditation, I come to see, yeah, I am that center of the cyclone, that still point that nothing touches. But I'm still upset at my partner. I'm still upset at my boss at work. I'm still upset about the politics. I'm still upset because my knee hurts. Knowing I am Brahman hasn't done anything, it seems, to solve those problems. So, is there a solution? There is. There is. What we always have to return to, in my opinion, there is no meditation more fruitful than to meditate upon the cause of dukkha, suffering. The cause of suffering is compulsion, attachment, insistence, kama, craving, spriha, longing. When I convinced that in order to be happy, the world must behave as I demand, and egoism, ignorance says, struggle and fight with the world. Yoga says, let it be. Have a peace that's independent of the world. Let it go. Give up our need to be right. Accept life on life's terms. Let the mind come home. In the beginning, your mind will, yeah, but. Don't worry. In time, that will quiet it down. Is it possible to be permanently free from suffering? The Buddha said so. Marga Satya, the truth of the path. Yoga says the same thing. Be an abandoner, be a tyagi. And watch our minds. Notice my suffering. Own it. Why am I suffering? Because I'm not getting what I want. Own your ananda. Desire and object of desire become one, and the mind is momentarily freed from the tyranny of craving. I think it's people, places, things, and conditions, but no, I've just used those to temporarily induce the state, the mind state, free from craving. And we prove this, even if we're not yogis, every night. Whatever your problems are during the day, they will go away at night. I wake up in the morning, oh, I don't want to get up. No. Why? When the mind is folded up in deep sleep, which is pure ignorance, at least I've let go of the tyranny of the Vikshepa Shakti, of the projecting power, of the longing, of the craving, of the vancha. Such, though, is the power of Maya. I hear this over and over and over again. And I forget. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Tattvam syadev vakyeshu tvam padartha vivekataha vajyate neva vakyartho nityamukto hamiyataha anvaya vyatirekokti stadvivekaya nanyatha tvam padartha vivekehi parnavarpita bilvat pat vakyartho vajyate chaivam kevalo ham padarthataha dukhityeta dapohena pratyagatma vinishchayat. The meaning of the sentences, like thou art that, i.e., one is Brahman, ever free, does not become manifest on account of the non-discrimination of the implied meaning of the word thou. Therefore, it is for the purpose of discriminating the meaning of that word, and for no other purpose, that the method of agreement and contrariety has been described. For when the meaning of the word thou is discriminated, one becomes perfectly sure of the nature of the innermost self by the negation of the ego connected with unhappiness from the meaning of the word I, and then the meaning of the sentences vis-a-vis one indivisible pure consciousness becomes manifest like an aigle marmelos fruit placed on one's plant.
Yes. So understand, we don't go through a process of becoming a fit student, practicing viveka and vairagya, shamadi guna, mumukshutva, etc. Then engage in another practice to realize the self. We don't first negate the non-self and then engage in another process to realize the self. Just like after I've showered in the morning and I look into the mirror in the bathroom and the mirror is full, all I need do is remove the steam on the mirror and the reflection of my face is there. Clear, it's obvious. Likewise, all we need do is discriminate. I am not this phenomenal world. This phenomenal world of name and form is Brahman, but the names and forms are mithya, illusory. We Viveka Chudamani, Shankara defines viveka, discrimination, as Brahma Satyam Jagan Nityeti Rupa Vinishchaya Soyam Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka Samudharita. Brahman alone is real. Phenomenal world is Nitya, illusory. The firm conviction in the intellect of that is known as discrimination between the eternal and the non-eternal, the real and the unreal, self and self. Brahman, the ground of being, and the illusory world of name and form. Once I can remember Jagan Mithya, the world is illusory, then Vairagya, let it go. That desire to give up attachments to all experiences gained through the senses, all ideas of self, all egoism, is known as Vairagya. And the two build on each other. The more you discriminate, the easier it is to renounce. The more detached you become, the clearer your discrimination becomes. You get two things. You get existential freedom. It's okay. You're absolutely safe. You need nothing. Find out where happiness is. Happiness is who I am. I just obscure that by the stupidity of craving. So simple in the end. Next verse.
Tatraivam sambhavatyarthe Shrutaha-na-shrutartha-dhih Naiva kalpayitum yukta Padvakyartha-ko videha. Those who are well versed in the meanings of words and sentences should not, therefore, assume a meaning which is not in accordance with the Shrutis and give up what is in them. For this explanation of the sentence is thus possible.
So here he is advising us not to get caught up in pointless grammar or a philosophical pursuit that's not in accordance with the methodology of thinking that's laid out in the scriptures, as it's been revealed in the Guru Shishya Parampara, in the tradition. So we don't get caught up in misunderstanding of things. This is why Shankara will say, without knowledge of the self, study of the scriptures is futile. You won't understand them. You'll make stuff up. With knowledge of the self, study of the scripture is again futile. You've become an Upanishad. You have no need for the scriptures. Why do we have them, and why do we attribute such authority to them? Because they become a bridge, a setu. They are a praman, they're a means of knowledge, whereby the vision of the teacher is transmitted to the student. It's in that discussion that the transmission happens. Any thoughts? Next verse.
प्रत्यक्षादीनि बाधिर्न कृष्णलादेषु पाकवत् अक्षजादीनि भैरेतेः कथं स्यात् वाक्यबाधनम् नेदुःख्यहमध्यासं दाहच्छेदादिहेतुतः तत्कालभाविभिर्लाभिभिर्वाक्येन बाधा क्रियते यदि समाप्तेस्तहरि दुःखस्य हि दुःखस्य प्राक् च तद्बाध इष्यताम् न हि दुःखस्य सन्तानो भ्रान्तेर्वा दृश्यते कचित्. Reply continued. I felt miserable on account of burns, cuts, etc. in dream, and was freed from pain through the teaching imparted to me by a man of knowledge in that state. Even if it be contended that the teaching in dream negates no pain, still pain, etc., cannot be regarded as belonging to the self, for the absence of pain is there both before and after it is experienced, a delusion or a pain being never unceasing.
So what he's saying here is, in my dream, if I have a dream where I cut myself in the kitchen and I feel physical pain in the dream, it certainly is a relatively real experience. And if a guru in the dream says to me, "You are really the waker, your cut is unreal," well, to the dreamer, my finger still hurts. It's only upon awakening, my hands, I go, "Oh man, that was so vivid. I'm not cut at all." Now, let me speak very practically. The vast majority of our suffering has nothing to do with pain in the physical body. The vast majority of it is the affliction of ego. Very few people jump off the bridge because of the toothache. So actually, the Vedanta is incredibly effective in removing the suffering that is in the mind itself. Now, in terms of the pain in the body, knowing that there's a gap, I am not the body, I'm the witness of the body. Our experience of pain changes. That's all I can say. And frankly, thank God we've got pain meds nowadays. But simply the knowledge, I am not the body, going through its craziness brings at least some peace to the mind. We'll see what he says. Again, this is written in what, the 1300s. I don't know if there was payments, probably opium poppies or something like that. Whether or not Vidyaranya would have taken. I know Mahatmas like Ramana Maharshi, he had cancer of the elbow. I don't know whether he took any pain meds. He certainly had surgery on it. But I wouldn't worry about that because, frankly, that's not the cause of most of our suffering. It's the affliction in my mind. Swamiji went under general anesthetic when he had his heart surgery. I have no idea what he did in terms of physical pain. All right, next verse. Next verse.
Okay. Pratyagatmana atmatvam dukhyasmityasya badhaya dashamam navamasyeva vedacheda viruddhata. There is no contradiction if by negating the idea that one is unhappy, one knows oneself to be the innermost self, i.e. Brahman, like the boy who knew himself to be the 10th and not one of the other 9.
So again, this is a reference to a famous Indian story. 10 boys are crossing a river in a boat, and the boat capsizes, and then they all scramble to shore. And they're wondering, oh, did any of us drown? And one of them says, all right, everybody stand in a line and let me count you all. See. So he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Someone's missing. Who is it? And another boy says, let me count. Maybe you did it wrong. So that boy goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh my gosh, one of us must have drowned. What they do not do is count themselves. So also you and I, my body hurts. My mind is going through its stupid reactions. When the environment is conducive, the mind is happy. When the environment is non-conducive, the mind is unhappy. It's so mechanical. The intellect goes through its things: success and failure, honor and dishonor, certainty, doubt. And if we take all this as one, real, two, it's about me, then it seems like I suffer. But Vedanta says, step back. Step back. Take on Sakshi Bhava, the attitude of witness. See what happens. Perform the experiment. And in many ways, this is one of the greatest values of going on like an extended meditation retreat. So many of you have done Vipassana retreats. And what do you do when a pain arises in your leg when you're sitting in meditation? You've done Vipassana retreats. What do?
You watch it.
And what happens?
It shifts. It dissipates.
That's what we are invited to do with life. All right, next one.
नित्यमुक्तत्वविज्ञानं वाक्याद् भवति नान्यतः वाक्यार्थस्यापि विज्ञानं पदार्थस्मृतिपूर्वकम् अन्वयव्यतिरेकाभ्यां पदार्थः स्मर्यते ध्रुवम् एवं निर्दुःखमात्मानं प्रियं प्रतिपद्यते. It is from the sentence only, and from nothing else, that one knows oneself to be ever free. The meaning of the sentence is known from the knowledge of the implied meanings of the words. These meanings, again, are surely understood by the method of agreement and contrariety. Thus, one knows oneself to be free from pain and action.
So again, this Tattvamasi is referred to as the Upadesha Mahavakya, the instructional great utterance. All of our practices are implied there. So it's not just hearing it on the surface, you are that. It means really find out who you are and really find out what that is. Negating objective phenomena. Come to see the ground of being of the whole universe, consciousness itself, Brahman, and my very nature, they are the same thing. Next one.
Sadevatyadivakyebhya pramasphurta tara bhavet dashamastatvamasitya smadhyathevam pratyagatmani prabodhena yatha swapnam sarvadukham nivartate pratyagatma dhiya tadvad dukhitvam sarvadatmanaha. The right knowledge of self Brahman becomes manifest from sentences such as thou art that, like the knowledge acquired from the sentence you are the 10th. The false conception of pain with regard to the self vanishes forever when the right knowledge of self Brahman arises like all kinds of pain experienced in dreams, which comes to an end as soon as one wakes up.
Yes. So, the suffering that the boys experienced, oh my gosh, there's only 9 of us here, ends when someone says, you are the 10th boy. Oh, it's me. Suffering ends. Likewise, my existential suffering ends when I come to see it's always safe. Even dying is completely safe. All this world is like very long and very vivid leave it all behind. It just becomes raw data. Yeah, but I won't do anything. I won't care about anything. What about love? We will gladly refund your misery if you would like. Try it. Be a spiritual scientist. Try the experiment for a day, for half a day, for an hour. See if you like it. And again, don't try to be a spiritual person. That becomes very burdensome. And the mind says, oh, am I living up to my expectation of what it is to be spiritual? I'm falling short. I'm a fallen yogi. No. Remember you are Brahman. And treat the stupid mind, intellect, body like your shadow. It's there. What concern have you? I think it was Jesus quoting Isaiah who said, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. I have to look it up. It may just be Isaiah. His yoke is easy and his burden is light. But the point is, the yoke is like what you used to carry buckets on a long pole. So the burden of this world is easy. It's light. When we practice this dhyaga, this abandonment. Next verse.
Krishna Lado Praman Janma Tad Tadnyartha Mritu Tata Tatvam Syati Pakeshu Na Tveva Ma Virodhataha. The knowledge that they have been cooked does not arise in the case of gold particles, etc., as they do not become soft. They are made hot by boiling them for the purpose of producing an unseen result in connection with sacrifices. It is not a fact that right knowledge does not arise from sentences like thou art that, for there is no such contradiction here.
I have no idea what he's talking about here. I'm not familiar enough with the sacrifice to understand what gold flecks are in sacrifice or melting or stuff like that. So I can't help you with that. Are there any notes in there?
Well, in the previous verse, when the gold was mentioned before,
What did it say?
it said, gold particles are boiled in order to sanctify them for the use in certain sacrifices. And then evidently they do not become soft, so the word cooking implies a contradiction.
I still find the meaning of this section obscure. I'd have to study it more closely. But I think his whole point is, does knowledge of the self free us from suffering? It certainly doesn't always free us from pain, but it does free us from suffering. Pain happens in life. Ouch. But suffering is a mental superimposition. And the pain itself becomes easier to bear. And the mind can become quiet. Just like in the Vipassana retreat, practically speaking, the pain shifts. Now, that doesn't mean we pointlessly or uselessly go through physical pain. 2 weeks ago, I actually did badly cut my finger. I was chopping up a bell pepper. Gush, blood, stuff like that. Washed it, put some hydrogen peroxide on it, put a Band-Aid on it for 2 weeks. Did it hurt? It did. But the pain went away eventually. I didn't freak out because I cut my finger. I just took care of it. We're not saying if you have a toothache not to go to the dentist and have it looked at. It doesn't mean that there's any, you get brownie points for unnecessary physical suffering. That's just stupid. Go to the doctor. And at some point, just like an old car, the time will come when it goes to the junkyard and gets crushed. And the metal is recycled to make new steel stuff. At some point, physical body is no longer repairable. And it too goes back to the elements. But you some of you may have had a surgery, had a body part or a gland removed. Are you still you? You may have to take a medication to deal with it, but you're still you. Scripture's thunder. That's a birthless, changeless, deathless reality. What if they're wrong? Well, you won't care after you die anyway. Next verse.
Vakye tattvam sityasmi angyathartha tadasityayam tvamarthe sahyayad vakyam notpadayet brahman. The meanings of the two words that and art in the sentence thou art that are well known. It does not produce right knowledge for want of help when the implied meaning of the word thou is not known.
So that ultimate reality, Brahman, God, and the verb to be, those are easy to understand. It's this idea of you that is challenging. Because most of our efforts are trying to fix a personal sense of self. I'm not enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not handsome enough. I'm not young enough. I'm not old enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not spiritual enough. I'm not detached enough. All sorts of various constructs the mind will posit to take the ego sense and move it to another state. All yoga says those are all fundamentally useless. They at best work up to a point. Got PTSD, go to the psychotherapist. But I promise you, not get real freedom from it. You get maybe a little rest. Yoga says, find out who you are. Get out of the whole thing. Everything changes. Next verse.
Tattvamostulya nidartha masiteta tapadam bhaved. The word art is used in order to show that the two words thou and that are in the same predicament.
So the verb to be is like an equal sign. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. You can switch sides. 4 is equal to 2 plus 2. The verb to be is the same thing. Jim, the brother of Michael, equals Jim, the son of Richard. Richard was my father. Same. Switch them around. Jim, the son of Richard, is the same as Jim, the brother of Michael. So here the verb to be only means the real essence of you and Tat Brahman. Same thing. I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. I am Brahma. Atma. This Brahman is the self. You're not a part of Brahman. You don't merge into Brahman. You don't have a relationship with Brahman. You are that. Next verse.
Tachabda pratyagatmartha स्तमस्तथा दुःखित्वा प्रत्यगात्मत्वं varayetamuphavapi. Being in the same predicament with the word thou, the word that comes to mean the innermost self. Similarly, being in the same relation with the word thou comes to mean the same thing as the word that. Thus, in relation to each other, the two words show that the innermost self is not unhappy, and that Brahman is not other than the self.
Very straightforward. Here he is kind of drilling down on I think the grammatical thing is the intransitive nature of the verb to be. It does not take a direct object. It takes a nominative predicate, I think. Meaning the subject and the predicate of the verb are the same thing, like an equal sign. It's not like greater than or less than. It means they are the same thing. Their meaning is identical. And on the surface, it doesn't seem true. It means I have to then investigate, see whether or not the Mahavakya is accurate. All right, going on.
Evam cha neti netartham gamayetam parasparam. Thus, both of them in conjunction express the same meaning as is implied by the sentence, not this, not this.
So this is the methodology. Neti, 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 na iti, not this. And again, when we say it, we never say just neti, and we never say neti, neti, neti. It's always two, neti, neti. Because we're dealing with a microcosm, the individual, and the macrocosm. You have a physical body, stula sharira, the gross body, the meat lump. The infinite has a physical body. We call it the jagat, the creation. Vishwa, the reality experienced in the waking state. You have a subtle body, a world of thoughts and feelings individually. My thoughts and feelings are different than others. The infinite has a subtle body. We call it the total mind. Hiranyagarbha. All the thoughts and feelings of all the beings that have ever thought and felt and ever will, on all levels, gross and subtle. You have a causal body, karana sharira, your bundle of vasanas. The infinite has a causal body. We call it Ishvara, the Lord, the total vasana. We call it Brahma, the creator. But at the core of my being, the knower of the gross, subtle, and causal body is witnessing consciousness. And what is that? Out of which the whole creation emerges. We call that Brahman. Prajnanam Brahma. Brahman is consciousness. come to see that that individual experience is all just Upadis, conditionings. Real self for me is not individual. It's individual in the sense that there's only one of us here. But self is Brahman. All right, one more.
Evam tattvam sitya sitas eva sorry. Evam tattvam sitya sya gamyamane phale katham apramanatva masyukta kriyapeksha tvamukchate. Why do you say that the sentence is not an evidence regarding the knowledge of Brahman and depends on an action in order to produce the same knowledge, as the result produced by the sentence, thou art that, is the right knowledge regarding self-Brahman?
So the question that we always want to deal with, it's usually unconscious. What action must I take in order to be free? What action must I undergo in order to be okay, to be happy? What must I do to the world? And what must I do to fix me? That's what my mind is constantly saying. I call it, I'll be happy when, it'll be better if, more, better, different. Kartavya, obligatory action. And what Shankara is saying is that never works. Actions cannot produce knowledge. It's like trying to sweep away darkness. It's the wrong methodology. Light dispels darkness. Knowledge dispels ignorance. Now there is a kind of action which we call investigation. See what's really there. But it's not like doing jumping jacks. It's not like going to the gym. It's not like baths, pilgrimages, ritual, yoga postures, etc. This is why all my egoistic efforts to fix myself ultimately doomed to failure. Don't believe me. Look at your life. How's it working out for you? We have to accept life on life's terms. Doesn't mean we have to like it. Acceptance, the definition, the acknowledgement of a material fact. When we acknowledge the material fact of how is the struggle of ego working out, we see, well, it's at best finite and temporary. Maybe there's a better way. Okay, we'll quit here today, and then before we end, I was talking before class, and it seems like actually here on Wednesday morning, we have done Narada Bhakti Sutra, because Scott has the text, and he would have only come on Wednesday mornings. So I think the text we will do next is Aparokshanubhuti. So I will order some for those of us in the area, and then I think Scott was saying you can get it on Kindle. So we'll get the Chinmaya translation of Aparokshanubhuti for our next text. And do we have a sense of how many verses are left?
Quite a few still. I would say another 2 weeks before we're done.
2 weeks only. That's not that long. Okay. Yeah. All right. So when we get a better idea, we'll set a date to start this. All right. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om. Thank you all.